Good day, ma'am. I will be discussing Chapter 18, which is creating a motivating climate. In objectives, we have to describe the relationship between motivation and behavior, differentiate between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, recognize the needs to create a work environment in which both organizational and individual needs can be met, delineate how the work of individual motivation theories has contributed to the understanding of what motivates individual inside and outside the work setting. We have to describe the link between risk-taking, innovation, creativity, and employee empowerment, and then recognize the complexity of using incentives and rewards so that they motivate rather than demotivate. Then recognize the need to individualize reward system for each subordinate, and then develop strategies for creating a motivating work environment and identify positive reinforcement technique that may be used by a manager in an organization, and then describe the constraints managers face in creating a climate that will motivate employees. Then identify the organization's responsibility for effective promotions, describe the advantages and disadvantages of promoting from within an organization versus recruiting externally for advancement opportunities, and then develop increased self awareness about personal motivation and the need for self care to remain motivated in leadership or in management roles. In introduction, this unit reviews the fourth phase of the management process. We have here directing. This phase also may be referred to as coordinating or activating, and regardless of the nomenclature, this is the doing phase of management, requiring the leadership and management skills necessary to accomplish the goals of the organization. Managers direct the work of their subordinate during this phase, and leadership support them so they can achieve desired outcomes. And in planning and organizing, managers attempt to establish an environment that is conducive to getting work done. And in directing, the leader, manager sets those plans in action, and the amount and quality of work accomplished by managers directly reflects their motivation and that of their subordinates. And the motivational problems frequently encouraged by the manager are complex. To respond to demotivated staff, manager need an understanding of the relationship between motivation and behavior. And then motivation is the force within the individual that influences or directs behavior. Management support a um, collegial fluence, and the interaction of personalities in the work group can have a synergistic effect on motivation, and the leader manager must identify those components and strengthen them in hopes of maximizing motivation at the unit level. The leader focus on the needs and wants of individual workers and use motivational strategies appropriate for each person and situation. So, in addition, a leader should apply techniques, skills, and also knowledge of motivational theory to help workers achieve what they want out of work. This term used to describe an employee's emotional commitment to organization, and its goal is employee engagement. So this emotional commitment means engage employees actual care about their work and their company, and they don't work just um, for a paycheck or just for the next promotion, but work of behalf of the organization goals. Custom Insights agrees, suggesting that employee engagement is the extent to which employees feel passionate about their job, are committed to the organization and put discretionary effort on their work. And then we have here leadership roles and management functions associated with creating a motivating work climate. In leadership, recognizes each work as a unique individual who is motivated by different things, and then identifies the individual and collective value system of the unit and implements a reward system that is consistent with those values, foster employee engagement and thus emotional commitment to the goals of the organization, and listens attentively to individual and collective work values and attitude to identify unmet needs that can cause dissatisfaction. Encourage workers to stretch themselves in an effort to promote self-growth and self-actualization. Promote a positive and enthusiastic image of self-empowerment to subordinates. Encourage mentoring, sponsorship, and coaching with subordinates. Then devotes time and energy to create an environment that is supportive and encouraging to the discouraged individual. And then is authentic rather than automatic in giving praise and positive reinforcement. Develop a unit philosophy that recognizes the unique worth of each employee and promotes reward system that make each employee feel successful. And then demonstrate through actions and words a belief in subordinates that they desire to meet organizational goals and is self-aware regarding own enthusiasm for work and takes steps to remotivate self as necessary. In management functions, uses legitimate authority to provide formal reward system, uses positive feedback to reward the individual employee, develop unit goals that integrate organizational and subordinate needs, maintain a unit environment that eliminates or reduces job dissatisfiers, promote a unit environment that focuses on employee motivators, create the tension necessary to maintain productivity while encouraging subordinate job satisfaction, communicates an expectation to subordinates clearly, demonstrate and communicate sincere respect, concern, trust, and sense of belonging to subordinates, and then assigns work duties commensurate with employee abilities and past performance to foster a sense of accomplishment in subordinates, and then identifies achievement, affiliation, or power needs of subordinates and develop appropriate motivational strategies to meet those needs. And in intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, in intrinsic, it comes from within the individual, often influenced by family unit and culture. In extrinsic, it comes from outside the individual. Rewards and reinforcement are given to encourage certain behaviors and or levels to achievement. In intrinsic motivation comes from within the person, driving him or her to be productive. And intrinsic motivation can be often is impacted by others. The intrinsic motivation to achieve is directly related to a person's level of aspirations. And then an intrinsic motivation occurs when individuals are motivated to perform a behavior or engage in an activity to earn a reward or avoid punishment. And then extrinsic motivation is motivation enhanced by the job environment or external rewards. So organizations also have cultures and values. Motivators vary among organizations as well as among unit in organizations. So even in similar or nearly identical work environments, large variations individual and group motivation often exist. So much research has been undertaken by behavioral, psychological, and social scientists to develop theories and concept of motivation. Economists and engineers have focused on extrinsic physical reward to improve performance and productivity, whereas human relations scientists have stressed intrinsic needs for recognition, self-esteem, and self-actualization. In motivational theory, so in philosophy, high productivity means greater monetary incentives for the worker, and workers are viewed by as being motivated primarily by economic factors. So this traditional management philosophy is still in use today. So many factory and assembly line production job as well as jobs that use production incentive pay are based on this principle. So the factors in productivity began during the human relations era like 1930 to 1970. So in Maslow, continued focus on human motivation did not occur until Abraham Maslow's work in 1950s. So indeed, Abraham Maslow is the leading figure in the tradition of humanistic psychology, and the modern positive psychology movement owes a huge depth to this theory. So many nurses are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs and theory of human motivation. So Maslow in 1970 believed that people are motivated by satisfying certain needs, ranging from basic survival to complex psychological needs, and that people seek a higher need only when the lower needs have been predominantly met. In self actualization, a central belief to Maslow theory was that people are born with the desire to self-actualize. Self-actualization, the pinnacle of hierarchy, occurs when an individual maximizes their potential, doing the best that he or she is capable of doing. And Maslow's portrait of the self-actualized person, so however, is detailed and complex. So in addition, self-actualized individuals do not allow themselves to be passively molded by culture. They are deliberate and make their own decisions, selecting what they see as good and rejecting what they see as bad. Also notes that they are the most ethical of people, even though their ethics are not necessarily the same as those of the people around them, because the ordinary ethical behavior of the average person is largely conventional behavior rather than truly ethical behavior. So, in characteristic of the self-actualization, actualized individual first is embrace the unknown and ambiguous and accept themselves together with all their flaws, prioritize and enjoy the journey, not just the destination, while inherently unconventional, do not seek to shock or disturb, are motivated by growth, not by the satisfaction of needs, have purpose, are not troubled by the small things, are grateful, share the deep relationship with the few, but also feel identification and infection towards the entire human race, are humble, resist enculturation, and are not perfect. So it is also became clear the motivation is internalized, and that if productivity is to increase, management must help employees meet lower level needs. So the shifting focus on what motivates employee have tremendously affected how organizations value workers today. So some current theories, however, have questioned the validity of Maslow's hierarchy, suggesting that limited empirical research has been done to support the rankings in the hierarchy, or that this needs even occur in an hierarchical order. So clearly many examples exist where individuals appear to be self-actualized, when indeed many of their basic needs have not been fulfilled. So in addition, self-actualization is difficult to test empirically, and much of Maslow's work on self-actualization actually came from a very small sampling of biographies of notable individuals such as Albert Einstein and Eleanor Roosevelt. So, although further testing of Maslow's work is indeed, his hierarchy of needs theory continues to influence how much many individuals, organizations view motivation and the path of fulfillment. So, in Skinner, was another theorist in this era who contributed to the understanding of motivation, dissatisfaction, and productivity. So Skinner in 1953 researched an operant conditioning and behavior modification demonstrated that people could be conditioned to behave in a certain way based on inconsistent a reward or punishment system. So behavior that is rewarded will be repeated, and behavior that is punished or goes unrewarded is extinguished. So Skinner called those elements that encourage behavior and reinforcers, and those responses that decrease the likelihood of behavior punishers. Environmental influences that neither encourage nor discourage behavior were known as neutral operands. So Skinner's work continues to be reflected today in the way many managers view and use discipline and reward in the work setting. Skinner three operands that influence behavior, like neutral operands, responses from the environment that neither increase nor decrease the probability of a behavior being repeated. Reinforcers responses from the environment that increase the probability of a behavior being repeated. Reinforcers can be either positive or negative. And in punishers, responses from the environment that decrease the likelihood of a behavior being repeated. Punishment weakens behavior. So in Herzberg, which is Frederick Herzberg in 1987, believed that employees can be motivated by the work itself and that there is an internal or personal need to meet organizational goal. And he believed that separating personal motivators from job dissatisfiers was possible. So this is distinction between hygiene or maintenance factors and motivator factors was called the motivation hygiene theory or two factor theory. In motivators, we have here achievement, recognition, work, responsibility, advancement, and possibility for growth. In hygiene factors, we have salary, supervision, job security, positive working conditions, personal life, interpersonal relationship, and peers and company policy and the status. So Herbert maintained that motivators or job satisfiers are present in work itself, so they give people that desire to work and to do that work well. Hygiene or maintenance factors keep employees from being dissatisfied or demotivated but do not act as a real motivators. It is important to remember that the opposite of dissatisfaction may not be satisfaction. When hygiene factors are met, there is a lack of dissatisfaction, not an existence of satisfaction. Likewise, the absence of motivators does not necessarily cause dissatisfaction. So we have here a recent study by Norwegian researchers supported Herbert's assertion that money is a hygiene factor rather than a true motivation. And Instead of organization focusing all their efforts on compensation system, the research suggests that organizations strive to create need-satisfying work climate to motivate employees to perform better. So this can be done by providing positive feedback, acknowledging employees and then skills and effort, offering employees opportunities to learn new things, asking open-ended questions, listening actively to employees, inviting participation in solving important problems, acknowledging employees' perspective, and offering choices within the structure of the organization. And then some theorists continue to argue, however, that money can truly be a motivator, as evidenced by people who work insufferable hours at jobs they truly do not enjoy. So, some theories would argue that money in this case might be taking the place of some other unconscious need. So, some people in Herbert's studies, however, did report job satisfaction solely from hygiene or maintenance factors. So Herbert asserts that these people are only temporarily satisfied when hygiene factors are improved and show little interest in the kind and quality of their work, experience little satisfaction from accomplishment, and tend to show a chronic dissatisfaction with other hygiene factors such as salary, status, and security. So Herbert's work suggests that although the organization must build on hygiene or maintenance factors, the motivating climate must actively include the employee. So the worker must be given greater responsibilities, challenges, and recognition for work well done. So the reward system must meet both motivation and hygiene needs, and the emphasis given by the manager should vary with the situation and the employee involved. Although hygiene factors themselves do not motivate, they are needed to create an environment that encourages the work to move on higher level needs. And then hygiene factors also combat employee dissatisfaction and are useful in recurring an adequate personnel pool. So in Vroom, which is Victor Vroom in 1964, another motivational theorist in human relation era, developed an expectancy model which looks at motivation in terms of the person's valence or preferences based on social values. In contrast to operant conditioning, which focuses on observable behaviors, the expectancy model says that a person's expectations about his or her environment or a certain event will influence behavior. So, in other words, people look at all actions as having a cause and effect. So, the effect may be immediate or delayed, but a reward inherent in the behavior exists to motivate risk taking. So, in Vroom's expectancy model, as we can see in this figure, people make conscious decisions in anticipation of reward, and then in operant conditioning, people react in a stimulus response mode, and manager using the expectancy model must become personally involved with their employees to understand better the employees' values reward system, strength, and willingness to take the risk. So in McClelland, David McClelland in 1971 examined what motives guide a person to action, stating that people are motivated by three basic needs: achievement, affiliation, and power. So in achievement-oriented people actively focus on improving what is, and they transform ideas into action, judiciously and wisely, taking risks when necessary. So in contrast, affiliation-oriented people focus their energies on families and friends, and their overt productivity is less because they view their contribution to society in a different light from those who are achievement oriented. So research shows that women generally have greater affiliation needs than men, and that nurses generally have high affiliation needs. In power oriented people are motivated by the power that can be gained as a result of a specification. They want to command attention, get recognition, and control others. So, Macmillan theories that managers can identify achievements, affiliation, or power needs of their employees and develop appropriate motivational strategies to meet those needs. And then, in this theory, Gillerman Saul Gillerman in 1968, which is another humanistic motivational theorist, identified several methods to motivate people positively. So one such methods or stretching involves assigning tasks that are more difficult than what the person is used to doing. So this includes personal and professional development in areas of vocational knowledge, skills, and expertise. Giving people responsibility often causes them to rise to the challenge. In addition, unleashing their imagination, ingenuity, and creativity often results in their contributions to the organization being multiple many times over. And then stretching should not, however, be a routine or daily activity. So all employees need to have time to rest and regroup after being stretched. So the challenge of stretching is to energize people to enjoy the beauty of pushing themselves beyond what they think they can do. So another method, participation, entails actively drawing employees into decisions affecting their work. Lerman strongly believed that motivation problems usually stem from the way the organization manages and not from the staff unwillingness to work hard. And according to Gillerman, most managers or overmanage, they make the employee's job too narrow and fail to give the employee any decision making power. And we have also here MacGregor, which is Douglas MacGregor in 1960, examined the importance of managers' assumptions about workers on the intrinsic motivation of workers. So these assumptions, which MacGregor labeled Theory X and Theory Y, lead to the realization in management science that how the manager views and thus threat the workers will have an impact on how well the organization functions. So in Theory X, employees avoid work if possible, dislike work, must be directed, have little ambition, avoid responsibility, need threat to be motivated, need close supervision, are motivated by rewards and punishment. And in theory, why employees like and enjoy work, are self-directed, seek responsibility, and are imaginative and creative, and have underutilized intellectual capacity, need only general supervision, and are encouraged to participate in problem solving. So in MacGregor did not consider theory X and theory Y as opposite points on the spectrum, but rather as 2 points on a continuum extending through all perspectives of people. So MacGregor believed that people should not be artificially classified as always having theory X or theory Y assumptions about others. Instead, most people belong on some point on the continuum. And then, in creating a motivating climate in worker empowerment, one proven strategy for creating a motivating climate is the empowerment of workers. Richards defines employee empowerment as the process of allowing employees to have input and control over their work and the ability to openly share suggestions and ideas about their work on the organization as a whole. Empowered employees feel they can challenge the status, which is critical for organizations to avoid obsolescence in fast changing technology and driven environments. Leader managers then must encourage workers to think creatively within the organization and avoid the micromanaging that often stifles creativity. The reality is that creativity requires risk taking and risk innovation and may at least initially result in failure. So, even failure, though, can lead to worker empowerment when employees feel that managers trust them to make choice based on sound reasoning and a focus on business needs. They feel more confident in their ability to try and even fail learning in the process. So, this empowers them to try harder. To empower workers, the leader manager must create an environment where employees understand what is expected of them, know how their work contributes to the organizations, and feel free to make choices and decisions about their work without having to ask for management permission. So, in addition, managers must be role models of the empowerment and lead by example. Managers who do not feel empowered will set a stage for employees to not feel empowered. So next is incentive and rewards. So many organizations use incentives or reward to foster a motivating climate. So the use of incentives and rewards for this purpose, however, can be very challenging. So Cherry notes that although offering rewards can increase motivation in some cases, researchers have also found that this is not always the case. In fact, offering excessive rewards can actually lead to a decrease in intrinsic motivation. So the tendency of extrinsic motivation to interfere with intrinsic motivation is known as the overjustification effect. So this involves a decrease in intrinsically motivated behaviors after the behavior is extrinsically and rewarded and the reinforcement is subsequently discontinued. So in addition, some individuals erroneously believe that if a small rewards results in desired behavior, then a larger reward will result in even more of the desired behavior. So this simply is not true. So there appears to be a perceived threshold beyond which increasing the incentive results in no additional meaning or weight. So using incentives and rewards to motivate workers can also be complicated by a view of rewards as competition. So when rewards lack consistency, there is a greater risk that the reward itself will become a source of competition and thereby lower morale. And an attitude prevails that a limited number of awards are available, and an award received by anyone else limits the chances of my getting one. Thus, I cannot support recognition from my peers. So, all employees should be recognized for meeting milestones. So, likewise, rewarding one person's behavior and not the behavior of another who has accomplished a similar task at a similar level promotes jealousy and can demotivate. So, rewards and praise should be spontaneous and not regulated to predictable events such as routine annual performance reviews and recognition dinners. And rewards and praise should be given whenever possible and whenever they are deserved. And if positive reinforcement and rewards are to be used as motivational strategies, then rewards must represent a genuine accomplishment on the part of the person and should be somewhat individual in nature. So, for example, many managers erroneously consider annual merit pay increases as rewards that motivate employees. So, most employees, however, recognize annual merit pay increases as a universal given, and thus these rewards has little meaning and a little power to motivate. Next is the relationship between the employees and his or her supervisor. So in addition, the interpersonal relationship between an employee and his or her supervisor is critical to the employee's motivation level. So indeed, custom insights suggest that an employee engagement within the organization. So feeling valued, being treated fairly, receiving feedback and direction, and generally having a strong working relationship between an employee and his or her manager that is based on mutual respect is predictive of a strong employee engagement within their manager. So we often forget that the only way to achieve our goal is through the people who work with us. Therefore, although managers cannot directly motivate employees, they can create a climate that demonstrates positive regard for their employees, encourages open communication as well as growth and productivity, and recognizes achievement. So, in strategies for creating a motivating climate, the leader manager can do many things to help create an environment that is motivating. Sometimes fostering a subordinate's motivation is as simple as establishing a supportive and encouraging environment. So the cost of this strategy is only the manager's time and energy. Most managers, however, will tell you that recognition, incentives, support for making progress, and clear goals are also essential for creating motivating work environments. So, in addition, one of the most powerful yet frequently overlooked or underused strategies the manager can use to create a motivating climate is a positive reinforcement, which validates workers' effort. A negative feedback makes workers feel as if they are being punished for trying, and if negative feedback is consistently provided, the person will give up trying. So, if not corrected, this feeling can undermine their commitment, engagement, and performance. So, it is important, however, when showing appreciation to be specific instead of just saying, "We really are grateful for the job you do around here." The approach might be, "I really appreciate how you dealt with a difficult patient last night." So your effort really made a difference. By being specific, the employer comes across as much more sincere, and the employee realizes their actions are truly being watched. So Bureau in 2015 cautions, however, that we have become a society in which people expect to be rewarded for drawing breath and taking up space, which makes the job of an HR pro or business leader tasked with employee retention a difficult one indeed. So if many of your employees expect routine and social praise and badges, how can you recognize extraordinary achievement? Bureau suggests instead to avoid constant praise for average work and to remember that recognition can be a key tool in employee retention programs only when it is recognition of extra effort and when it is authentic and not authentic. So leaders then need a variety of ways to recognize a performance and show appreciation. So this ability to individualize reward system is a cardinal element in a successful motivation reward system for an organization. So in Jensen 2015 suggests other strategies for creating a motivating climate in the workplace include hiring top performers. Working with lower performers may decrease the productivity of other workers. Then creating a displaying goals the employee or organization could reasonably attain, showing that you trust your employee to make the right decisions for the overall well-being of the organization, and making every employee feel that their job makes a difference. So when employees feel valued and empowered, they become more engaged in the organization, and this often results in a greater willingness to invest time and energy in meeting organization goals. In DeWolf 2015 calls this the IKEA effect, IKEA is the largest furniture retailer in the world, selling self-assembled furniture instead of pre-assembled furniture. So the IKEA effect is the cognitive bias of people to value something more if they put effort and labor into it. So the management implications are they pursuing a similar IKEA effect in corporate life encourages employees to derive more value from what they create at work and leading to more happiness and engagement. So here are the strategies to create a motivating climate. First is have clear expectations for workers and communicate this expectation effectively. Be fair and consistent when dealing with all employees. Be a firm decision maker using an appropriate decision making style. Develop the concept of teamwork. Develop group goals and projects that will build a team spirit. Integrate the staff needs and wants with the organization's interests and purpose. And know the uniqueness of each employee. Let each know that you understand his or her uniqueness. Remove traditional blocks between the employee and the work to be done. Provide experience that challenge or stretch the employee and allow opportunities for growth. When appropriate, request participation and input from all subordinates in decision making. So whenever possible, give subordinates recognition and credit. Be certain that employees understand the reason behind decision and actions. Reward desirable behavior. Be consistent in how you handle undesirable behavior. Let employees exercise individual judgment as much as possible. Then create a trustful and helping relationship with employees. Empower employees to have as much control as possible over their work environment and the decisions that impact it, and be a positive and enthusiastic role model for employees. So in promotion, a motivational tool, promotions are reassignment to a position of higher rank. It is normal for promotions to include a pay raise. Most promotions include increased status, title changes, more authority, and greater responsibility. Therefore, they can be used as a significant motivation tool. Whether recruitment will be internal or external, there are obvious advantages and disadvantages to recruiting for promotions from both inside and outside the organization. So recruiting from within can help to develop employees to fill higher level positions as they become vacant. It can also serve as a powerful motivation and recognition tool because all the employees know that opportunities for advancement are possible, and this encourages them to perform at a higher level. There are advantages to recruiting from outside the organization. However, when promotions are filled with people outside the organization is infused with people with new ideas. So this prevents the stagnation that often occurs when all promotions are internal. And then external candidates, however, often cost more in terms of salary than internal ones. And this is because external candidates generally need a financial incentive to leave their current positions for something else. And then regardless of what the organization decides, the policy should be consistently followed and communicated to all employees. Then some companies recruit from within first and recruit from outside the organization only if they are unable to find qualified people from among their own employees. So what the promotion and selection criteria will be. So if employees should know in advance what the criteria for promotion are and what selection method is to be used. Some organizations use an interview panel as a selection of method to promote all employees beyond the level of charge nurse. So decisions regarding the selection method and promotion criteria should be justified with rationale. In addition, employees need to know what place and seniority will have in the selection criteria. Then in the pool of candidates that exist, when promotions are planned as an in succession management, there will always be an adequate pool of candidates identified and prepared to seek higher level positions. So a word of caution must be given regarding the zeal with which manager urge subordinates to seek promotions. So the leader's role is to identify and prepare such as a pool. It is not the manager's role to urge the employee to seek a position in a manner that would lead the employee to think that he or she was guaranteed the job, or to unduly influence him or her in the decision to seek such a job. When employees actively seek promotions, they are making a commitment to do well in the new positions. When they are pushed into such positions, the commitment to expend the energy to do the job well may be lacking. In addition, for many reasons, the employee may not feel ready, either to personal commitments or because he or she feels inadequately educated or experienced. So, indeed, it is possible to promote an individual beyond his or her level of capability, known as the Peter Principle. So, in this case, promotions motivate that individual as well as everyone in the organization. So, in handling rejected candidates, all promotion candidates who are rejected must be notified before the selected candidate is notified. So, this is common courtesy. So, they should be thanked for applying, and when appropriate, encouraged to apply for future position openings. Sometimes managers should tell employees which deficiencies keep them from getting the position. So, for instances, employees should be told if they lack some educational component or work experience that would make them a stronger competitor for future promotions. This can be an effective way of encouraging career development. So, how employee release are to be handled? So, knowledge that the best candidate for the position currently holds a critical job or difficult position to fill should not influence decisions regarding promotions. So, managers frequently find it difficult to release employee to another position within the organization. So, policies regarding the length of time that a manager can delay releasing an employee should be written and communicated. So, on the other hand, some managers are so good at developing their employees that they frequently become frustrated because their success at career development results in constantly losing their staff to other departments. So, in such case, higher level management should reward such leaders and set release policies that are workable and realistic. So, in promoting self care, managers can also create a motivating climate by being a positive, enthusiastic role model in the clinical setting. Managers, however, must be internally motivated before they can motivate others. Managers who frequently project unhappiness to subordinates contribute to low unit morale. A burned out, tired manager will develop a lethargic and demotivated staff. So, therefore, managers must constantly monitor their own motivational level and do whatever is necessary to restore their motivations to be role models to staff. Perhaps the important strategy for avoiding burnout and maintaining a high motivational level is self care. So, for self care, the manager should seek time of on a regular basis to meet personal needs and seek recreation, form relationships outside the work setting, and have fun. And often, friends and colleagues are essential for emotional support, guidance, and renewal. A proper diet and exercise are important to maintain physical health as well as emotional health. Then, finally, the manager must be able to separate his or her work life and personal life. Then the manager should remember that there is life outside of work and that time should be relished and protected. Ultimately, the decision to practice self care rests with each nurse. In integrating leadership roles and management functions in creating a motivating climate at work, most human behavior is motivated by a goal that the person wants to achieve. Identifying employee goals and fostering their attainment allow the leader to create an environment that encourages employees to
reach personal and organizational goals. So the motivational strategy that the leader use should vary with the situation and the employee involved. It may be formal or informal, so it may also be extrinsic, although because of the limited formal power base, the leader generally focus on other aspect of motivation. The leader must listen, support, and encourage the discouraged employee. However, perhaps the most important rule that the leader has in working with the demotivated employees is that of role model. So leaders who maintain a positive attitude and high energy level directly and profoundly affect the attitude and productivity of their followers. So when creating a motivating climate, the managers uses formal authority to reduce dissatisfiers at the unit level and to implement a reward system that reflect individual and collective value system. So this reward system may be formalized or it may be as informal as phrase. Managers, by virtue of their position, have the ability to motivate subordinates by stretching them intermittently with increasing responsibility and assignments that they are capable of achieving. So the manager's role then is to create the retention necessary to maintain productivity while encouraging subordinates job satisfaction. So therefore the success of the motivational strategy as measured by increased productivity and benefit to the organization and by growth in the person which motivates him or her to accomplish again. So here are the key concepts. Because human beings have constant needs and wants, they are always motivated to some extent. However, what motivates each human being varies significantly. Managers cannot intrinsically motivate people because motivation comes from within the person. So the humanistic manager can, however, create an environment in which development of human potential can be maximized. Maslow stated that people are motivated to satisfy certain needs, ranging from basic survival to complex psychological needs, and that people seek a higher need only when the lower needs have been predominantly met. So Skinner's research on operant conditioning and behavior modification demonstrates that people can be conditioned to behave in a certain way based on a consistent reward or punishment system. Herbert maintained that motivators or job satisfiers are present in the work itself and encourage people to want to work and to do that work well. So hygiene or maintenance factors keep the worker from being dissatisfied or demotivated but do not act as a true motivators for the worker. In Vroom's expectancy model says that people expectations about their environment or a certain event will influence their behavior. In McKinley, studies state that all people are motivated by three basic needs, which is achievement, affiliation, and power. And Gillerman states that most managers in organization overmanage, making the responsibilities to narrow and failing to give employees any decision-making power or to stretch them often enough. And McGregor points out the importance of managers' assumption about workers on the intrinsic motivation of the worker. There appears to be a perceived threshold beyond which increasing reward incentives results in no additional meaning or weight in terms of productivity. Offering reward in defined categories, even when these categories are meaningless, can increase motivation because the very act of segmenting these rewards appears to motivate people to perform better and longer. And positive reinforcement is one of the most powerful motivators the manager can use and is frequently overlooked or underused. And positive reinforcement is one of the most powerful motivators the manager can use and overlook or underuse. And then the supervisor manager's personal motivation is an important factor affecting staff commitment to duties and morale. The success of a motivational strategy is measured by the increased productivity and benefit to the organization and by the growth in the person, which motivates him or her to accomplish again. So, because of the importance that American society places on promotion, certain guidelines must accompany promotion selection to ensure that the process is fair, equitable, and motivating. So, policies regarding promotions should be in writing and communicated to all employees. Recruitment from within has been shown to have a positive effect on employee motivation, whereas recruitment from outside the organization allows for new ideas and prevents stagnation. So it is possible to promote individuals beyond their level of capability. The Peter Principle, as it is known, as suggests that individual may rise to the level of their competence, and manager must show their own positive attitude to demonstrate to employees that there is joy in work. So that's all for my topic. Thank you.